Well, now it's time for a deep dive. And
All
as
right.
you know, we are doing a grief and gratitude series. And so we're going to have a conversation around that. Share with us a time of grief for you.
Yeah. Well, I guess my biggest one is diving right in is was March of 2020. I lost my twin sister, Audrey, to COVID complications.
Oh
So,
my gosh. Is this the same sister whose quote where we're just,
yeah.
oh, goodness.
Yeah, I had found that in one of her journals actually. She wrote it
Oh,
down and she had the most beautiful handwriting and so I like printed it out and yeah. So she was, yeah. I was like, what are we afraid of? We are
right.
just here, made of
Right.
stardust.
And
Mhm.
that was really at the beginning of COVID, as I recall, sort of, not quite January, February, getting into March. It felt like it would kind of had some traction. It was kind of becoming bigger. And so I would say that your sister then would be one of the first casualties, so to speak, of COVID, since it was so early on in the pandemic.
Yeah, she was like the day that I took her to the emergency room was the day that they had, closed the hospital to visitors. And yeah, it was one of the first that, they were taking all the COVID precautions to care for. And yeah, it was
Right.
a strange time. No one really knew anything like how to treat it or what to look for. And yeah, we think that she got it
Yes.
earlier and she had the complications of COVID, like the first strain, which I think was a lot stronger. I don't know. And like still we're
Right.
trying to find the answers that, we'll never have the answers to, but
Right. And there is, I don't know if there's necessarily comfort in that, but there's something to be said for you're not going to get to know it all, that, and that
mhm.
doesn't change the outcome. I mean,
Yeah.
knowing some of it probably, brings more peace and more understanding, and yet, she's still gone. That has to have been, well, one, very unexpected, unless she already had some underlying, what do they call that? Immune compromised. I mean,
Mhm.
did she have, like, was her health already sort of fragile?
Oh, she was a nurse. She was so healthy. She was a yoga
Oh,
teacher. She was really passionate about holistic health and wellness and eating well and
oh my goodness.
studying, yeah, Eastern medicine, Western medicine. Yeah, very healthy. We had run a marathon together as a family a
Oh
year
my
before. So
gosh, that's so great. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
It's like that's my version of a nightmare, having to run a marathon. I
I
am,
feel that way.
yeah, I am, gosh, how very unexpected. I mean, you're painting somebody who's the picture of health, who very early on went in when, like you say, they didn't fully know what it was, what to do about it, and then
Mhm.
to have some complications and not to make it through. Oh my goodness. Gosh, I am so sorry for your loss, for your family's loss. And tell me, how did you, when I say how did you get through it, because I don't really think we're ever done in our
Mhm.
grief, and you may feel the same way. You're not really ever done. It just starts looking kind of different. How did you uh navigate some of this?
Yeah, I love that you said that. It's like we never really finish grieving. It's not like, we're done and yeah, we've like made it through. It's kind of like how do you grow around your grief? Like the grief, is a boulder. I always think of it as like you're a tree and there's like a boulder that's been placed like where your roots are and you just have to like grow around this like big boulder that's like never gonna, you know,
Oh,
move, but you can grow like around it and so that's like my analogy there, but
that's so good.
yeah, I'm like
That's
it's
so good.
it's like it's not going anywhere. Yeah, the love, grief is love with nowhere to go. And once you lose someone, the love doesn't go away.
Grief is love with, oh my gosh, is love with nowhere to go.
Hmm.
Oh, wow. You need to get
Yeah.
that on, I don't know, a t-shirt, the name of a book. I mean, that is really powerful.
Yeah. Like, cause that's all it is grief is love. Yeah. So, but yeah, to answer your question, how did I grow around this loss? I think I'm still trying to figure it out. because yeah, it forever changes you. And I think that there's like such a difference between like acute grief and with traumatic loss and then, kind of navigating the rest of your life. And if I was to like think back to like the first couple years, like what helped me was just trying to be, and I had to be reminded of this all the time, and I still do, but just try to be as like gentle with myself as possible. Because grief really does impact you like mentally and physically and emotionally. And this was at a time too where, everyone else was grieving something. The pandemic was such a potent time of grief for everyone. And so I just had to like remember that and like lower my expectations for myself and like everyone else and just say like, we're doing the best that we can. Which I didn't really slow down a lot at that time. Like I was in grad school and started a foundation and like, yeah, I don't know, but I tried my best to be as like easy on myself as possible when I, couldn't.
Well, and that's really good advice because when you're in that, it's so, the pain is so overwhelming. You don't really know what to do with it. And it is
Mhm,
very depleting. You don't mean for it to be, but it can't help but be depleting. And
mhm,
you don't have a whole lot of energy to do much. I mean, it
mhm.
just sometimes doing the most basic things just feels so monumental. Is that when you started your foundation, which is called Waves of Grief?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that, did you
Mhm.
start it before your sister passed or after she passed?
Afterwards, yeah, I
Okay.
was working in the surf therapy realm before, but after losing Audrey, I realized that there wasn't a lot of space for people to come together and like honor their grief. And I think I also started it because I was like, this is what I need. And like, okay, I was like, I need people to like come together in nature and share about their losses too. So I feel less alone, like in my loss. Yeah, because I think that like grief is the most like universal human experience in the world, but it's so awkward and hard to talk about. Um, yeah, so I wanted to create a space where people felt safe to share about their loss.
Right.
Um, yeah.
So, okay, so you start this foundation, you have a website, Waves of Grief, and what does that look like? I mean, you have I'm imagining what like videos, a blog. I mean, how do you disperse this, distribute this? How do you get it out into the world?
Yeah, like how to get the word out for the
Yeah,
circles.
yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
We got well, initially in 2021, we were approached by National Geographic to do a series called Impact that was directed by or produced by Gal Gadot. And so initially there was a lot of there still is like a lot of
Wow.
interest, but yeah, so it was the series, it's on Disney Plus now, and the story was out there. And like again, it was like a really potent time for grief, and it still is now, but
Right.
yeah, they grew a lot, like thanks to Impact, and the publicity that that documentary provided around Waves of Grief. And yeah, since then, it's just been, we've been really fortunate to have a lot of therapists and surfers and grievers and communities like reach out to me and say that they feel like, they want this space in their community. And so, yeah, they're able to hold the circles there. But let me just like backtrack. I can share like what the circles are and like
Yes,
what
that
we
was my
do.
next question. What are the circles? They sound great. I like the sound of a circle. So tell me, what's a circle?
Yeah, so at Waves of Grief, we have a program called Second Sundays, and it's the second Sunday of every month. There is a circle that's led by a facilitator for anyone in the community to come together and share about their grief and their loss. Um, And so there's like in the circle, people come together and they share, and then we invite them to engage with the ocean or nature as they feel fit. So it's like a combination of like peer-to-peer support and also ecotherapy as well.
Ooh, okay. So
So
it's being out in nature, which is very healing too.
yeah, it started off as like surf therapy. in the ocean. And then we realized that there were a lot of people that were coming that wanted to like boogie board or others that wanted to walk. And then we were like, oh, actually it's the water that's healing. So now we're in Lake Michigan. We have that there. And so, yeah, I think it's like the nature that brings us all together.
Right. So it sounds like you're growing. So you just mentioned Lake Michigan. I mean, and you're in Northern California. So is it's especially with the kind of exposure you had through this TV series. I'm imagining that these circles are being held, in a lot of places.
Yeah, it's my dream to have them everywhere. We are in 12 locations now. We just opened one in Australia, which has been lovely, and yeah, Costa Rica. So, those are like the farther ones away. But there's a lot in California. There's one in San Diego too. I'll have to send you the
Ooh,
information
nice.
for
Yes.
that.
I like
So,
that. Oh,
yeah.
very good. Well, I want to know what you think about Audrey's legacy. I mean, her passing was a catalyst for such a tremendous amount of opportunity to heal for other people, starting with you and
Mhm.
your family, and really the possibilities of this being global. And when I say that, it's not, I know that's not your goal is to impact people. Your goal is not to be able to say, well, we're worldwide. The idea is we want to get this out to as many people to heal as possible. And we'd like that opportunity to
Mhm.
be worldwide, not that in and of itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I don't,
definitely.
yeah, I don't think it's about vanity at all. I think it's about how I want to offer this to as many people as we can.
Yeah, thank you.
So this legacy, I mean, this is no small thing. And I find it staggering that if you look at a lot of the good that is being done in the world and you trace back how it began, I think more often than not, it comes from a place of grief.
I love that. It's so true. Yeah. It
Oh,
does come from a place of grief and just someone saying that, yeah, they want to make a difference. Yeah, and for me, I always think I'm like, I just want to make Audrey proud. She was such a healer and such a giver. And yeah, I feel like I'm carrying her legacy with me. Like, yeah, and I just not, nothing, I don't know how to put this. Yeah, I'm like, because of the work that I'm doing, like I feel it's propelling me to continue on in this life too, just because it gives me meaning and yeah, creates space for others to find meaning as well
right,
in their
right.
loss.
This purpose. It's this
Hmm.
beautiful, beautiful purpose that was born from a tremendous amount of pain. And I feel like you reach a fork in the road in your grief where you can decide, do I want to be bitter or do I want to be better? And
Oh, I love that.
those of us who choose to sort of go as, not that it's not painful, it's still painful when you choose the
Hmm.
better, it's still painful, but then you can turn it around and help others, impact others, make a difference for others. And again, that's something Audrey would love that you're doing.
Yeah, I feel like you're doing this too with Unabashed You, with the like what the stories that you're sharing too. And yeah, and just helping people feel less alone in their grief.
Right. Well,
So
and if you trace my grief journey back, I had a son that died. So,
yeah.
it gets traced back to a time of grief as well.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's
yeah,
great.
right there.
Yeah.
Can you say that, okay, a lot of good has come from Audrey's passing in waves of grief and all that you're able to do? This is going to be a weird question, but can you say you were grateful to have had that experience? I mean, obviously you would choose to have Audrey back 100%. I get that.
Yeah.
But are you grateful? Like, okay, well, at least, she's not here, but at least I can turn this into good.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because I feel like, or I know that if I could trade myself for her or all of my limbs or anything, or I would do anything in the world to have her back here. And it's hard
Right.
to find, to look at it as like good has come out of it or that I'm grateful for it. Cause I wouldn't, I would do anything, change to not have her die. Um, yeah, it's hard. I'm looking at like what I've learned from it, and I've learned to show up as a better friend for other people that have lost loved ones. I think you don't really know what it's like until you've experienced it. And I feel like I can just show up now with more empathy and understanding. Um, and that's a tough question because I'm like,
Yes, I know. I get it.
mhm,
I do. We had one of the guests say this, and I just thought it was just brilliant the way she put it. Being grateful in the situation versus for the situation, which I thought was such a good
mm,
distinction. So you're in the grief of Audrey's passing, and so but there are things you can be grateful for in that, but not for it. And I
yeah.
think that that distinction is just like when she said that, I was like, I'm going to be saying that a lot. That's so good.
Yeah. You
So good.
kind of have to have like a mindset switch too, where, cause there's like, oh, the world is so cruel and unfair and like, like how could this happen? And there's that road you can go down, or you can
Yes.
say like for me, what's like the things that have really helped me grow around my grief has been like, be like, oh, I have a dog that I love, and my sister always wanted to adopt a dog. And like, I'm so lucky to like have this lifetime experience of like raising my own dog or
Yeah.
like enjoying my morning coffee or like growing older because I think that is like a privilege denied to many.
Yeah.
So yeah, finding gratitude in these experiences that as a twin, it's really hard like not being able to like share those like life experiences with someone that you've grown
Right.
up with. But
Right.
yeah, I feel like I'm living for her. And I know like too that
Yes.
I'll be with her again. Like I just there's no doubt in my mind that like we'll be reunited on the other side. So just gotta make her proud and have a lot of things to share with her in the meantime, or do
Well,
things to share.
and since I believe that too,
Hmm.
it does, there is some comfort and peace that goes with that knowing,
Hmm.
because it's like, okay, this is not forever, it's for now. And that
Yeah.
there's something about that that helps. At least it's helped me. And I'm imagining
Hmm.
that what you just said, being able to be with her again. And that is it's a very driving kind of a thought. I mean, it really keeps my hope, it stokes the hope.
Yeah, it stokes the hope. It really
Yeah.
does. Uh-huh. Yeah, there's like the feeling of that too. And I also like not to get woo-woo, but I feel her energy around me here. Like it's just something someone shared with me after Audrey died was that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And that yeah, I don't know. A lot of people share that in waves of grief too, is just to like the relationship, the relationship isn't over, it's changed. There's still a part of you in
Yes.
some way. That's
Oh, that's so good. Oh, you need to write a book.
That's so funny you said that because I kept telling her, I was like, she needs to write a book. When she was in the hospital, I thought she
Oh,
was going to recover. And then I was like, oh crap, I guess that's that's on
uh-oh,
me
up
now.
to you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
One day.
because
Hmm.
um you have a lot of wisdom that you've gathered and gleaned from all of this, and that's exactly what you're pouring into Waves of Grief. It's in a way it can be sort of a natural progression of what you're already doing, just sort of encapsulating it all. I feel like there's a lot out there, but I feel like there's more that could be out there,
Yeah.
to help people navigate.
Yeah. What do you think else, like, what else do you think needs to be out there? That's a good question. Like, what
Um,
does the world need?
I think from my own experience, I
Mhm.
think conversation, which is of course what we're having now,
Yeah.
and I felt like a lot of people didn't know what to say. And I don't know if you experienced that too firsthand. They don't know
Hmm.
what to say. Not all people. Some people do not know what to say, so they don't say anything,
Yeah.
which is can be awkward in certain social situations. And then also I've noticed that some people almost tried to avoid me as if
Yeah.
I was contagious or and I think it goes back to they don't know what to say. They're afraid
Mm.
to say the wrong thing, they're afraid to cry, all these things where I would want to have more conversations around it. All of that's it's okay in that moment
Mm-hmm.
for you to say whatever is on your heart. I'm not going to, I'd rather have them say something than nothing if they feel compelled. I certainly don't think it's required to say something. I just think it's seeing and experiencing that fear. It's like, I'm already going through enough here. Just,
Yeah.
I'm not contagious.
Yeah.
It's okay just to say I'm sorry. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I mean, because we haven't really come up with a different phrase from I'm sorry.
No.
It's not really adequate, and yet it does at least acknowledge, I see that you're in pain. I wouldn't wish that for you.
Hmm.
I hope that you navigate this well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't say all that.
No, it's so hard to come up with the right thing to say. I remember when it was like fifth grade, my friend lost her mom, and I remember thinking like, I don't want to bring up her mom because I like don't want to make her sad. And
Yes.
carried that belief for a long time until really losing my sister. And I'm just like, I want to tell people I'm like, I'm sad already. And I'm thinking about her 24/7. There's not a moment that goes by when I'm like not thinking about my person. And so for me, when someone loses a loved one, I like to ask them, like, what was your person like? Like, what they
Yes.
think about this? And like, honestly, like,
Yes.
how are you doing? Like, and yeah, and just to
Yes.
listen. Like, it's so important for people to just listen.
Yes. And I remember reading a book, and this wasn't even a book on grief, but it was a novel. And it was one of the main characters had a daughter that had died just very coincidentally. And the line was, she had been more than her death. And I
Mm,
just thought that that line, she had been more than her death, was for me, was like,
wow.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, your sister lived a not a long life, but a full life up until that point with all the different
Mhm.
things she was and did. And she existed. So she was
Mhm.
more than the fact that she died.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of asking questions. Tell me about her. What was she like? What were some of her favorite this or that or the other thing? I think I'm going to say most people, there's always that bell curve.
Mhm.
It is comforting that somebody wants to listen and
Mhm.
hear about your loved one
Yeah.
because they were real. They
Yeah.
were real. They were here.
Totally. Hmm. And I feel like that's such a common fear that people have too, like after they lose their loved one, is that people are going to forget about them, and like what they were like in their life. And yeah, so it's just like a reminder. It's like I'm thinking about them. And yeah, my friend's loved one too, or like, yeah, your son, like it's just they were real and they were here. And
Right.
that's
Yes.
how we keep them.
Yes. That's so beautiful. What
Mhm.
advice would you give somebody, one, who's grieving, and two, to cultivate gratitude?
Ooh. Okay. I think I already mentioned like treat yourself like a baby and take care of yourself.
Yes.
Another piece of advice I would give to someone that's grieving. Oh, gosh, that's hard. I think it's just
That's good.
yeah, just to know that like the relationship with your person isn't over. It's just changed and you can still like make new memories with them by like honoring them and I don't know, like yeah, eating their favorite meal or celebrating a special anniversary or holiday with them is just know that you can still make them a part of your life in a different way.
Right. And what about cultivating gratitude? Or are you saying that that's a way to be grateful for the relationship?
Yeah, okay, so cultivating gratitude is just remembering that yeah, life is actually no matter what, it is like a precious gift. Like we are so lucky to be here and to connect with the people that we connect with and that there are so many things to be grateful for, whether
Mm.
they're big or small. And if you like make it a practice to be present of those things, I think life feels a lot more kind and magical. You're
Yes,
doing a
I
great
like
job with
that.
that, with this grief and gratitude series. So
I am really enjoying this and I have gotten so much out of it. Just, not just having conversations, and talking about this. This is one of the things I said I think we need to do more of,
yeah,
having
yeah.
these conversations and normalizing it a little bit more. Because, if you live long enough, which doesn't even have to be that long, there is going to be some kind of grief along the way and
Mm-hmm.
probably multiple seasons of grief. That's just
Mm-hmm.
part of the deal. There's no way around it.
No.
And I like that you said life feels a lot more, did you say kind?
Kind and what did I say? Magical.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
magical. Yes,
Hmm.
that's beautiful. Kelsey, is there anything you feel like you didn't get to say that you wanted to say?
Um, Gosh, no, you did such a great job at asking all of the right questions. Yeah, I would love to learn more about your story too. So
Oh, that's so
yeah,
sweet.
that's
Thank
my
you. Thank you.
question. But
Thank you. I appreciate that. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a connection through Mark Hanley of Fallen Watermen's Foundation. These two are looking at different ways to collaborate. I know Mark outside of that life, a wonderful man who's been on the show before. And yes, let's normalize having some conversations around grief. It already is a part of life. Let's not make
mm,
it harder than it has to be by not wanting to talk about it or making it scary or taboo or whatever.
yeah.
Kelsey, what a pleasure this has been. I am just over the moon. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much for having me and for having these important conversations.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate it.